September 23, 2025. Today was my Psyche day. Before that, I started with, or very late last night, early this morning, I was reading No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. And I'm about halfway through the book. And it's pretty good. I like it. I have a couple quotes that I marked down. I finished up the second notebook. So, when I lay next to her, my body was enveloped in her current, which mingled with my own harsher current of gloom, like a withered leaf settling to rest on the stones at the bottom of a pool. I just really enjoyed that visual. And then, when they tied me up as a criminal, I actually felt relieved, a calm, relaxed feeling. Being like docile, having, I suppose, the character looks at the future and it feels very bleak, which is, or just existence, and it seems very bleak. It has been bleak. And I suppose being taken away by the police sort of relinquishes some of that responsibility to make decisions, to live at the expense of freedom, or rather, not so much freedom, but meaning. Because what is freedom without meaning? That later gets into a quote that I'll mention, but yeah. And then the last one, seagulls were flying by in a line which somehow suggested the curve of a woman's body. Yeah, just another beautiful visual. Okay, then I followed up with, I finally finished the Process of Individuation chapter by Marie-Louise from Franz, in Man and His Symbols. Okay. I want to get to that. Okay, I'll start with the first quote. Time and time again, in all countries, people have tried to copy an outer or ritualistic behavior, the original religious experience of their greater religious teachers. Sorry, I'm just being very cautious because my cat was feeling neglected and peed on my bed, which was like super great. No, I was really upset, and she knows I'm very upset. And it's still kind of lingering. My cortisol is still kind of high. But I went and cleaned everything, and now she's checking it out. But yeah. The sections that I read were, well, okay, I didn't write them down. Awesome. Okay. Time and time again, in all countries, people have tried to copy an outer or ritualistic behavior, the original religious experience of their great religious teachers, Christ or Buddha or some other master, and have therefore become petrified. To follow in the steps of a great spiritual leader does not mean that one should copy and act out the pattern of the individuation process made by his life. It means that we should try with a sincerity and devotion equal to his to live our own lives. I'm not gonna act like I've always seen through the through lines or whatever, you know what I mean, read between the lines and be like, oh yeah, of course, but I remember once having a thought, considering whether or not I should be living like one of these figures or like one of these figures. So I guess the delineation occurs when it's taken as a literalism versus as a example for how to model one's own life in terms of the degree of integrity. Yeah. Because I suppose Buddha and Christ and all these sort of masters did sort of, it's an extension of their, it's their path lived through to a very great extension. And it was so great that it was worth revering, because it was so close to them, what they lived for. And then that goes into the next. If man no longer finds meaning in his life, it makes no difference whether he wastes away under a communist or capitalist regime. Only if he can use his freedom to create something meaningful is it relevant that he should be free. That is why finding the inner meaning of life is more important to the individual than anything else, and why the process of individuation must be given priority. So that does go back to what I was talking about, freedom and meaning. Like, what is freedom without? I'm gonna go let her out. And then another thing, sorry, I'm like charging my phone. Oh, what the heck? Okay, be right back. Another thing is that sort of Jung's process of individuation process is like very, it's like leading like a double life. You sort of are doing like dream work, and then, but you also have to go and exist within your day-to-day life. But there's something, it is compensatory. Is that how you say that? But it compensates. Which is sort of alludes to the idea that it's one's dreams are giving direction or providing answers, or in its own way wisdom via the unconscious. But that gets a little more complicated once you like deviate outside of Jungian depth psychoanalysis. And not only that, but it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm just I'm making or saying aloud the sort of intensity one or seriousness that what it takes to like do this stuff, dream work, I guess. But I mean, it's not just that, but I mean, even going as far to like write down your dreams and try to like pick out subjective symbols and decipher them. It's like its own, it's like a task, and it's I mean, you have a job and then you have this, and it can be draining as well, as much as it can be sort of fulfilling, especially if you're doing this every day, if you're having dreams all the time. So, but it does sort of create a personal adventure. I think Jung would describe, or even von Franz described it being like the unconscious, that the journey of discovering that is the only modern journey of the modern man that's worth exploring now. But then at the end of the chapter it says, but it seems to me certain that Jung's discovery of the process of individuation is a fact that future generations will have to take into account if they want to avoid drifting into a stagnant or even a regressive outlook. And then I follow that up just by writing the margins. Might the keys that free us from the shackles of old be found in our dreams? So I guess what prompted me to underline or annotate that or note that, I suppose certain rituals and rites were founded off of dreams, and particularly practices in indigenous tribes were brought to example, in which something would occur in a dream and be shared with the tribe, and then they would even reenact the ritual, and somehow it would it would make everyone feel better. Even sometimes the animals seemed more at peace. And after that point, it became like a regular thing. And I suppose in us postmoderns, or using, I guess, the resistance to changing those rituals it can be met with, changing those rituals can be met with resistance because of the sort of weight they hold as being traditional. But I guess I was saying maybe that in us allowing our own dreams to modify or reshape the way we think about something, it can give us new ideas that we can sort of adapt those old ones onto, and so that we prevent what Franz called a stagnant or even a regressive outlook. And I say this primarily because it's becoming quite obvious that a lot of the current systems and values are changing and becoming something entirely different. Right now, there seems to be a sort of an uncomfortable, like, unknown, almost like it's a black box to humanity. Like, I don't think anybody knows until we sort of see it coming on the horizon. But I don't know. Technologically, that seems to be like AI, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't think AI is like going to be taking place of simply everything, you know. But I guess I don't know why I mentioned that, but yeah. So might the keys that free us from the shackles of old be found in our dreams? But that would also insinuate that there is some sort of compensatory work or compensation to be found in dreams, a way to sort of guide, which is contrary to Hillman's ideas, at least from what I understand. I haven't gotten very far in his book, The Dream in the Underworld, but it was what I followed. It was the following book, and so. Okay, this was about, in the Psyche chapter still, called Underground. It was a section called Underground and Underworld. Okay. So there is an introduction to this figure, this sort of thrice figure of Demeter, Gay, or it's GE. It's supposed to be sort of like the OG Gaia. And then Chthon. The chthonic is not only female, not only instinctual, not only physical, and it does not have to do with the fertility rites. A polytheistic mind does not firmly divide these levels, and so Demeter, Gay, Chthon frequently merge in epithet and cult. Even the earth and nature have their psychic function as well as their terrestrial ones, and one may serve the earth and be on the ground in more ways than one, i.e. through psychic activities and not only through natural ones. So I sort of skipped through some. There's a lot of information that occurs in between there where it does sort of talk about these different levels and what they play and what roles they play and how they all sort of end up being one and the same. But it just kind of goes through a lot of the history of that and debate how people are into debating that. I guess I can give a brief. It's basically grouping a larger set of things together that maybe we would separate naturally because of the way we view polytheistic gods, which is starting to become very, very interesting to me because I don't know. I said this in a previous video that I didn't post, but I quite like the idea of like polytheistic. I don't know. Maybe it's a romanticism that I feel for the Hellenistic times, but uh, having certain whatever god you sort of resonate with most at a given time, you could just like go there to that temple and sort of celebrate with people, um, and also meet people that way, and then I guess the sort of diversity would end up reintegrating itself into the community. But I don't know. I think it would just be cool to just like have those places where people could get together. I've been really nostalgic for this. I guess you could call it an archaic nostalgia for the like 30 to 50 group tribes that people would be in, and you would sort of get to know everyone. I when I was going into high school, I went on a few weeks backpacking trip in California with like 29 other people and like 6 guys, and it was really a great experience. By the end, those people just felt like family, and I don't know, you just learn so much about yourself and others, and then sometimes you can sort of fall into these, I mean, when you're young, I mean, I'm still young, what am I saying, but like little romances, and it's just, things just become interesting, it's, or exciting, and I just had a deeper appreciation for these people I thought to be, I never thought I would get to understand, and I guess by the end, I'm just trying to say I understood them in a way that that surprised me. And even now, even if I saw them again today, I would just be like, I mean, it's been some time, but you know. Which is goes into another thing that I've been thinking about, and I'll keep this pretty brief because it's at 17 minutes now, but I could be making a reach here, but I see like all these streamers, and they're always sort of like together, making their own sort of tribe, their bubble. They may not be with each other 24/7, but a lot of them with each other all the time and end up in each other's rotation. And so in a way, it is somewhat like a tribe, and they have these relationships, and not only that, but they're exaggerated because of all the performance behind it as well. But I don't know, even catching things like romances and like little ships that people have, or like I can't believe I just phrased it like that. You know what I'm talking about, but just like, yeah, I don't know. And so they sort of get to profit off of the envy that we have for those things that we lack in our own lives, and it does create this sort of archaic nostalgia. But maybe it's not as archaic as I think it to be. Maybe that was not so uncommon 20, 30 years ago. Maybe the 90s in the Americas or anywhere. But I just understand the 90s in the US to be a very pleasant time, pleasant decade. I mean, I was born after that, but yeah. So yeah, that's my bit on streamers. But then going on Tartarus from Hesiod onwards. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I should check out this Hesiod person because it's mentioned quite a bit, and I'm only gotten to Ovid so far, so maybe it's worth exploring. It certainly is. Hesiod onward was imagined to be at the very bottom of Hades, its farthest chasm. Tartarus was compared with the sky, as distant from the earth as the heaven alone, and it was personified as the son of ether, and of earth. That is, a realm of dust, a composite of the most material and immaterial. As the fantasy of Tartarus developed, it became a more pneumatic region of air and wind. So, going from a Christian fiery hellscape to, or even a more gloomy, like, just corpses walking through these caverns, being endlessly tortured, which is more like, I guess, I don't know, I kind of went from biblical to like maybe like the romantic bit, like river Styx kind of idea. I don't know, but I say romantic. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not so much romantic. Maybe that's just how I depicted it in my brain. But to something that's completely just wind and dust and just nothing, absolute nothing. I don't know. It's just interesting. That wasn't what I depicted as Tartarus when I was reading, like what the House of Hades by Rick Riordan. I mean, I pictured whatever is on the cover of the book. I don't know if you recall the paper cover, but it was like this pit that cracked open, and it was just fiery and just red. It looked like a lot of lava was down there. But next quote: "We will begin to find that dreams reflect an underworld of essences rather than an underground of root and seed. They present images of being rather than of becoming," which is, again, what I was talking about when I was saying it's contrary to Jung's more compensatory dreamscape. "We will learn that a dream is less a comment on life and an indication as to where it is growing than it is a statement from the chthonic depths, the cold, dense, unchanging state. We can no longer turn to the dream in hopes of progress, transformation, and rebirth. I think, too, that the underworld teaches us to abandon our hopes for achieving unification of personality by means of the dream." And so I guess this basically just flips everything I said about Jung on its head, which is pretty interesting because I guess further on, what one knows about life may not be relevant for what is below life. In the underworld, all is stripped away and life is upside down. We are further than the expectations based on life experience and the wisdom derived from it. I guess they just say it flips Jung's ideas upside down, and I don't know if it's completely, but I understand that if in Egyptian mythology it took it pretty far as to say like people walked on their feet, or like their feet were on top, like they were like literally upside down. And then the final quote, which was, "The polytheistic perspective was grounded in the chthonic depths of the soul." So this sort of chthonic Tartarus, maybe. I don't know. This chthonic or underworld. "Only by falling apart into the multipole figures do we extend consciousness to embrace and contain psychopathic potentials." So I guess those multipole figures. Oh, it says into the multiple figures. Multiple. Well, that actually, interestingly enough, made me think of polemics, and thinking about so Demeter, Gay, and Chthon, encompassing an entire spectrum of a polytheistic god or a polytheistic presence. Yeah. So I don't know. I say I don't know, but I think I know a little bit. But I don't know what to make of my dreams at all. It's fun to sort of, it's exciting to be able to think that it's like somehow a puzzle that I can decipher and unlock my potential or something. But then again, if it is sort of talking about being rather than becoming, it's still offering something. Yeah. I guess that's kind of all I have to say today. I mean, I sort of like rambled a little bit in the middle, but yeah, I've been posting pretty regularly on my Substack though. If you're ever interested in my writing, I try to put a couple posts out a week. That's kind of my main thing. These vlogs are sort of just a complement to that. Also, just to sort of another layer or way for me to process all the things that I'm reading. It's speaking them out loud is a way to do that, I guess. But yeah, all right. Well, I'll call it there. Catch you in the next one.